Howard Tremendous here, and I got another book review for you. This one is actually one of my first. Well, I guess it's not one of my first, but it's science fiction adventure. It's got a lot of humorous science fiction stuff in it, and honestly, it's just kind of a good time kind of book. It's called Duckett and Dyer, Dicks for Hire. Yeah, I know it rhymes, so I really like it. I got it on Kindle Unlimited with my subscription, but on ebook it's like $2.99. The paperback is $14.99. It actually comes in hardcover for $27.99, which is cool. I haven't seen a hardcover yet. It is about 300 pages, so it's a decent read, and it was published on March 30th of 2019. It's not a bad read. As you can tell from the cover and stuff like that, it is obviously kind of a tongue-in-cheek detective type of book. I see it as suspense. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Basically, Duckett and Dyer, there's Mike Duckett and Stephanie Dyer. And they're both losers. I mean, Mike has huge anxiety problems, and Stephanie is a deadbeat, one of those free spirits, quote unquote, where she just kind of has been leeching off of him their whole life. They met when they were in grade school. He was getting beat up. She defended him, and they became fast friends ever since. But now they're well into their 20s, pushing 30s, and she's a deadbeat. He's a data entry guy in an entry level position, barely making ends meet. They live in a real crappy apartment. Literally, there's a hole in the wall that leads outside. It's just garbage after garbage after garbage. Mike, like I said, is this really meek, cowardly, anxiety ridden individual who's just constantly, he's a floor mat for society. Stephanie's kind of a scumbag, definitely a slob. She's got a lot of love for Mike, don't get me wrong, and deep down Mike does too, but his anxiety and cowardice of it just building up this toxicity in him that's just he's gonna snap. I mean, he kind of loses it. But that's what they are. They're nobody important. They're not cops. They've never been like any kind of detectives or anything like that. And all of a sudden, there's an ad on the internet for these two, Duckett and Dyer, PIs for hire. Somebody later on changes it to Dicks, and they're like, that's not us, that's not us. And then they run into a guy who invented something that kind of makes alternate realities a possibility, if that makes any sense. You'd have to read the book to know more. And it's interesting. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's very humorous. There's a lot of humor, but at the same time, there's also a lot of downers. A lot of downers. Mike is kind of God's punching bag. I don't know how else to put it. And that's not to say that he doesn't deserve it. There's no character growth for Mike. He starts off kind of a scumbag loser, and he ends this pathetic, meek scumbag loser, and it's that bothers me a lot. There's a lot of character development for Stephanie Dyer. There a ton actually, but Mike is the same pathetic piece of garbage in the beginning that he is at the end, and that eats at me a bit. And also, while it was a ton of fun, I really enjoyed figuring, because it's a time travel type of book. Alternate reality, time travel is definitely thrown in there a lot. And it's interesting, but the problem is they run around and they do a bunch of stuff, and then it just kind of gets fixed. You don't get an explanation on how it got fixed or why it got fixed, and then you get a hint that it's not fixed, and the ending felt tacked on. I'm not gonna lie to you. It felt like the author made this wonderful story with a lot of meat, a real immersive world, a very deep multiverse, and it was really excellent, and it was this huge issue and a bunch of terrible things are happening, and you never really figure out why. And then it was just kind of like they did the Wayne's World, let's do the happy ending thing. And that confused and bothered me a lot. I even went back and reread the last few chapters, which I would never normally do, just because I'm like, did I miss something? Did I skip a chapter? And no. And then the spoilers, I'll get into that. And it eats at me a lot. Everything just kind of got wrapped up in a bow, and there was no real explanation on how or why. Or honestly, like I said, I'll get into the spoilers. I don't want to push too much because honestly, overall, I enjoyed this story. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed, running around, even though I don't really like Duckett, and I did like Dyer, although she's a difficult character to like right away. It was still a fun story. I enjoyed their back and forth. I enjoyed their chemistry, even though it's not a romantic relationship at all. It's interesting, and the way he crafted his plot was really interesting, and it catches your attention and it hooks you. Like, I started reading it Saturday morning and I didn't stop until I had to go somewhere Saturday night, and that's when I finished it. So it definitely will hold your attention. It's definitely worth the price for ebook or Kindle Unlimited. And so I've actually been very torn about the rating I wanted to give this book, but I gotta go with 3.5. I wanted really bad to give it a 4, but the lack of character development for the main character, I mean, the main billing is Mike Duckett, and he is a weaselly, cowardly piece of garbage human being from page 1 to page 300. There's no character development from him, and that aggravates me a lot. If he was a supporting character, it wouldn't bother me at all. But honestly, he's supposed to be a co-main character with Stephanie Dyer, and Stephanie Dyer goes through a transformation that is literally a fat caterpillar to a beautiful butterfly. It's really awesome. Mike does not. Mike is a floor mat from 1 to 300, and that eats at me a lot. And then just how it ended, how the book ended, it doesn't tell you what happened in order to fix everything. I mean, like, I'll get into the spoilers, but yeah, that's what aggravated me. But I like the book a lot more than just be like, give it an average rating. I feel it is above average, but there's so many things kind of battering it down that I have to go with 3.5 out of 5. I can't go any further than that. Also, there's some grammatical and spelling errors. Not many, not many. There you do notice a few the wrong tenses and stuff. And then there's a word choice in there that it's not even a word. Like, I clicked on it. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can hold down on the word and it'll pop up with a definition. It's not even a word, and I don't know what word he was going for. It's like orabus or something like that, and I couldn't figure out what that word was. Again, that's not a huge big deal, and honestly, there's so few errors in this book, it doesn't even factor into the rating. It's just they're there. So you will notice a handful of them while you're reading, and they are jarring. They take you out of the flow of the story and out of the flow of the reading. But other than that, it's a very smooth read. It's a very easy read, and it's a very enjoyable read. I liked it. It's just I wish that Mike would have been more than just a cardboard cutout NPC as a main character, and I wish that there was a deeper explanation or an explanation at all on what happened in order for them to fix the situation they're in. And like I said, I'll get into the spoilers. So all in all, 3.5 out of 5. And I'll get into the deeper meaning of why right after these messages. So stand by. Everybody knows, as a self-published author, it's hard to find a solid group where you can get the answers to all your questions. That's when I found Self-Published Book Groups. It's a Facebook group, and the link is in the description. Totally worth it. Check it out, especially if you're a self-published author. Spoilers coming up, so if you're still here when the music stops, it's on you. All right, let's get into the spoilers. So this book starts off. This guy Mike is an anxiety-driven coward. I mean, he freaks out having to make any decision. His chest gets tight. He panics real easy, and I mean, he's just a loser. He works as a data entry guy, entry-level job at some company called the Future Group, which doesn't really come into play too much. He's hard to like. He feels sorry for himself all the time. He drags his feet everywhere. He's got all these aspirations. He wants to be somebody, but he just doesn't have the courage or the self confidence at all to handle it. And he blames everybody but himself. His mom, his upbringing, his friend Stephanie. And that's, he goes home to this apartment, and it's in a bad part of the town. It's super overpriced. He's got a scumbag Middle Eastern landlord, and I mean, it's literally. I think he makes a point of saying that the real brick walls he thought were endearing when he first moved in. But it turns out, no, the brick wall was all that was between him and the outside world. A brick came out, so there's literally a hole to the outside from this apartment. It's dirty, it's nasty, it's not well kept, and his roommate is basically homeless person. Stephanie Dyer, the second main character. When we meet her, she's sitting in this couch, or sitting on the couch watching TV, just useless, no job, no anything. Yet she has money to buy food and grappling hook guns and stuff like that all the time. And it never explains that. It never explains where she gets money at all. I don't know if it's some sort of welfare or if it's some sort of like investment or if she's stealing from Mike, because it never says that he gave her any kind of money or anything like that. So it's one of those plot holes where it's like, where, just a sentence could have handled that. There was a trust fund or whatever, because both of her parents died. These two met when they were kids. Mike was, of course, getting beat up. Stephanie was like, hey, get off the bully and blah, blah, blah. And of course, the bully beat the crap out of Stephanie, which, hey, equality. But they became fast friends afterwards. And that's why they're still there. Mike, his mom brought him up to always take care of others first, but she's some sort of 60-year-old lush now that lives in Boca Raton and never really talks to him anymore. He doesn't really see her all that often. So, okay. It's just very, very weird. But honestly, I personally didn't like either main character off the bat. I'm like, okay, so they're starting at the bottom and there's going to be character development. So by the end of the book, I'm going to like them. I'm going to go through this adventure with them where I get to see them both develop. Okay, cool. So since they live in a crappy apartment, Mike has to go to this laundromat where he meets this girl and they hit it off. And after weeks of flirting, he finally, she asks him out and he's like, cool. So he offers to take her to this really nice restaurant. He's all excited about it. And when the day comes, after some hilarity, and it is a very entertaining book, it's very funny. But after waiting, he basically gets stood up. They're sitting there. He's waiting for 3 hours. Stephanie is there acting like a waiter and really bad disguise. Like I said, she's kind of an idiot scumbag, but she means well, and you're starting to see that. But after, of course, he fails and everything like that, he gets into his car, which he literally calls the garbage mobile. And the way I saw it, it was this rusty yellow gremlin whose passenger side door is welded shut. It's just like this guy, if he was any more of a floor mat, they would just roll him up and throw him away. It was really, he's God's punching bag in this world. So they get back to their apartment, and he's been accosted a couple of times by this crazy lady who wants to hire him as a private eye. He's like, what are you babbling about? Stephanie's unemployed, and he's a data entry guy at a company that could care less about him. So he's not a private eye. He's a huge coward. He's really afraid of this lady. He's like, leave me alone. Holds up his umbrella and stuff. It's just kind of funny. And it turns out there's this ad, which you're looking at. I think the ad is exactly what the cover is, and it's Duckett and Dyer, PIs for hire. Dix comes later. And he's like, what are you doing? He thinks Stephanie did it. Stephanie's like, I didn't do it. And he's losing his mind, and they're about to be evicted from this apartment and everything, and everything's starting to just go downhill. Just got stood up by this girl. It's like, oh, woe is me. Again, nothing really like galvanizing with this guy. He just continuously whines and he lashes out at Stephanie. Not entirely unwarranted. She is kind of a leech and definitely a bit of a cancer in his life, but she's also the only thing in his life that knows he exists. So it's a balancing act. They end up going looking into this lady's case. He ends up taking this lady's case because he's like, sure, why not? What else do I have to lose? Mostly at the behest of Stephanie. Again, he's a floor mat. He kind of gives in real easy. So they're checking out this lady's thing, which basically she's like, I'm pretty sure my husband is cheating on me, and I want you to verify that he is, and I'll give you $500 or so if you can tell me one way or the other. So they track down where this guy's at, and he's going to this sleazy motel, which it never really explains why he's at this sleazy motel, with the exception of well, in a minute. They find him in his hotel, and when they get to the hotel, they're watching him go in, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely cheating." They literally have like a McDonald's Happy Meal pair of binoculars that they're using, which they actually break in half and use as a monocle or a monocular or whatever. And yeah, they see this weird blue light coming out of the door and the window. They kick in the door and they see this guy, Mateo, and his wife, which is the crazy lady that hired them to check out to see if her husband was cheating on her. Only the lady that they see is much better dressed, much better put together, although she's still a lunatic bitch. And she kind of looks at him when they come in and she rolls her eyes and goes through this weird blue vortex portal. Like, no hesitation, just walks back through it. The doctor guy, this Mateo guy, they're like, "Stop, you're cheating on your wife." And he's like, "Oh no, I can explain everything." And then he dives through the portal. Well, Stephanie being a lunatic and Mike being a coward, Mike's like, "Well, I guess we're done here, let's leave." And Stephanie grabs him by the arm and they jump through the portal. They go to an alternate universe where they confront this guy. It's basically 3 years in the future, but it's not their universe. It's a different universe, only just a little bit. They end up tracking down the doctor at his apartment with the really nice wife. It's like I said, it's 3 years in the future, and it turns out that this dude Mateo, the guy they were hired by his alternate future or his alternate universe wife to check on him, he invented multiverse, a dimensional portal where he can travel space and time in order to go to alternate universes and different times and all this stuff. And he invented it so that he could have a threesome with his wife. That's it. He wanted to have alternate universe wife and his current universe wife and him. That's why he was at the sleazy hotel. I think that's why he was at the sleazy hotel. Although you find out that the guy's got money. So, in order to get back to their world, they force this Mateo guy to take him back to his lab where they can get the technology, because it's been 3 years since he touched it, and you find out why about that later. In order to get out of there, he gives Mike a ring because it's like a dampening ring. Because if you touch somebody from another universe, you'll kill them. They explode, and it opens a rift in time and space. It's very odd, but it kills him. And what ends up happening is Mike has the ring that dampens him so he can touch people, so he doesn't just blow them up and kill them. Stephanie does not have that. She runs to the bathroom while all that's being explained. And when she runs back in, there's, the guy is like, "Yeah, I'm going to help you guys out. Don't even worry about it. I got this little stopwatch thingy that can open portals so you can get back to your own time zone. You can dial it in like the flux capacitor or like the DeLorean and Back to the Future." Stephanie's all excited. She throws her arms around Mateo, and he explodes in a gory mess. It's very descriptive. It made me laugh. And it destroys the little stopwatch doohickey thing where they could program where they're going. So when Mateo explodes and dies, he dies and explodes in every multiverse. Like every alternate universe there is, he dies there. He just disappears, right? So they don't know what's going on. This portal opens up where Mateo was because his death caused a weakness in the time-space continuum. It explains it. And they get sucked in. So now they're going from universe to universe trying to figure out what's going on and how to get back to their universe. They don't know, what's going on. But in order to open portals right now, Stephanie has to touch somebody and explode them, killing them in every multiverse so that they can get into these new portals and go from A to B. And that's when things start to kind of make sense. Like, oh, okay, that's why this was happening in our time. That's why this was happening. That's where this came from. So, but by doing all that, by weakening the barrier between each multiverse and the time continuum and everything like that, they start causing Armageddon in these different universes. Literal lightning is coming down and frying people, and just killing everybody. At one point, they meet this lady who was one of the original people that they blew up, but she comes back, and it doesn't ever explain why. She doesn't even know why it happens, but it's been going on for decades for her. And she kind of explains stuff to him saying, you guys are causing a rift in the time-space multiverse continuum by doing all this stuff. And the only reason I know about it is because I keep meeting different versions of you that are all doing the same thing all over the multiverse. And it's bad. It's really bad. You're going to cause all sorts of Armageddons. You need to close this loop that you've opened or else. And so Mike, of course, anxiety driven the whole time, whining, bitching, moaning. But the Stephanie character, she has a character arc. She actually evolves. She becomes a better Stephanie by the end of the book. She starts to take responsibility. You know, she stops being so flippant. You get more of her backstory about why she's so flippant about everything. You know, her parents died when she was a kid. Her aunt and uncle got her thrust on them. And while they took care of her, they didn't care for her. You know what I mean? And so she kind of, in order to hide all that, she uses humor and her nonsensical attitude to just kind of mask how much pain she's in. So you get where she's coming from. There's never a moment like that for Mike. He's the same anxiety ridden, cowardly floor mat in the beginning of the book that he is at the end of the book, and that eats at me a lot. So they end up like just mass murdering people back to what's close to their universe, and like within months of it, because they kind of figure out that you have to believe or you have to concentrate on where you want to go in order to make that happen. And you know, a lot of other things make sense that happened earlier in the book, and there's a lot of recap. Like I said, there's a lot of it gets a little confusing, but the author does a really good job of keeping it in line for you so you can follow it. And then at the end, or towards the end of the book, like the last 11% of the book, Stephanie has this adult moment where she's like, you know what? This is all my fault. I forced you into this. I made you do all this. I've almost gotten you killed multiple times. And some of the alternate universes they go to are just inspired. I mean, there's a flooded world, there's an ice age world, there's a nightmare realm, there's a burger realm. I mean, you have to read the book. It's really entertaining when they go all these different alternate universes. It's like some Doctor Who meets Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy meets a bad acid trip. I mean, it's really inspired. I really enjoyed that part of the book a lot. But anyway, Stephanie is like, you know, this is all my fault. She takes the ring from Mike, and she can touch him because they're from the same universe, so it's fine. But she takes this ring, the dampening ring from Mike, and she goes, "Let me do this. You stay here. I'll fix everything." And she jumps into the portal, and Mike, being milk toast, just okay, go bye. You know, he's upset about it. He feels bad about it. He carries around the guilt like he carries around all his other inequity, or you know, his inconsistencies and just, you know, patheticness. But that's it. You know, he mourns her, but after she's gone, everything just kind of fixes itself. Like she pulls it off, and you don't know how. She's in the book. She shows up multiple times. She drops post-it notes everywhere, but it doesn't tell you why she puts post-it notes everywhere because she can talk. She can talk. There's no problem with her talking, but instead of doing that, she refuses to talk, and it doesn't explain why. And she uses post-it notes with real cryptic messages on them, like "Oops, sorry, but he was a bad guy anyway, right? Tee-hee." And it's just why. There's no explanation. She's got these goggles on. She covers her face. She covers her body in this weird trench coat. She looks like a sand person from Star Wars, as far as I can tell. But there's no explanation to why she does all that, why she masks herself, why she uses post-it notes. None of it makes any sense. Later on, everything just kind of fixes itself. All the dead people, all the people that they had to touch, they all come back. They've got minor brain damage. They've forgotten everything conveniently. But other than that, everybody's better. Everybody's back. And the world ending lightning bolts that are killing everybody, no longer an issue whatsoever. It doesn't factor into anything anymore. No explanation whatsoever. It's just the Wayne's World happy ending thing, and you have no idea how she did it. You know she does it. She says she does it because he's gone. You know, it's like 2-3 weeks for him, or 2-3 months. It's a while, but nothing's different for Mike. After she leaves, he sees everything is better. All the people, including the girl he was supposed to date, they don't remember anything that he did or who he was or anything like that. But it's just like this ultra happy ending where everyone comes back and the world and the universes are all better, and that's it. He's in his crappy little apartment. He's being evicted. He's got no money. He's got no future. He's got no friends. And he's all disappointed. He's super depressed. He starts looking at an old high school yearbook, and all of a sudden there's pounding coming from Stephanie's old room. He runs in there, and she's tearing a wood plank off the wall so she can recover these goggles that she's been wearing around everywhere. So, again, what's going on? So he's like, "What? You're back?" And he's all happy that she's back, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I've been taking care of everything, and I totally knocked it out of the park, and yay." And that, and she's like, oh, and by the way, I did some other things. And he's like, what did you do? She's like, come with me, real cryptic. Don't want to tell him. It's a surprise. So they go to like the worst part of the city. It's called like I don't remember, something Wallow or whatever. Basically, it's the ghetto. It's the worst part of the ghetto. It's the south side of Chicago during the summer, okay? And so she takes him there, and she's got this Duckett and Dyer PIs for hire, but somebody has already graffitied PIs and put dicks. So that's why it's got dicks. And so they've got their own PI office where they now live, and it's a much better living situation, but it's in a horrible part of the city. I'm wondering how many times Mike is going to get mugged just leaving there. And she's like, I did all these things. It turns out that the rent checks that they were missing for the apartment that they were living in, she was stealing and cashing in order to invest in certain things because she could time travel so that she could make money, so that she could open this Duckett and Dyer Dicks for Hire private eye place. And Mike, being the milk toast champion that he is, just kind of goes along with it. Okay, I'm just so happy you're back. Yay. But she's this new, confident, responsible, like private eye chick that has saved the multiverse. You just don't know how. And then there's like this epilogue where she meets a future version of herself, and she gets all this information. It's like early on in the book, before it all started happening, like months before it all started happening, where a future version of herself tells her, you need to do all these things and you need to fix all these things. Although, even though that was one of the rules that they couldn't break, that they weren't supposed to break in the book, it's broken immediately. And she has all this insider information and knows where to go and what to do, but it doesn't explain what she did. It only says there's something in between the universes that's coming after us and trying to destroy us in all the multiverses, and it's your turn now to fix it because my time is up. And it's real cryptic. It doesn't explain that. It's like, why? Why is your time up? Why are you here telling me this? Well, because now it's your turn. It's your universe's turn to toe the line. Mike's dead. Take care of your Mike, and good luck. And then she just goes back into her portal, which is super stable, by the way. And that's it. She's gone. So it sets it up for the next book, but it doesn't explain how the first situation with all the Armageddon and all the different worlds and everything and how she brought all the people back, never explained. Never tell. It's just, here's the good guy ending, here's yay, and don't ask any questions. Because honestly, I think the author didn't know what to do with it. I don't think the author had an explanation on how Stephanie fixed it, and that eats at me more than anything. It just... that took a what was looking at a 4.5, 5-star book and made it a 3.5, because there's just no closure. No, you have no idea what happened. It's just everybody is suddenly better. Everything is better. And there's also a detective that is like a big part of the book, but he doesn't do anything. Like, it's this Rex Calhoun guy. I don't know what he did. I don't know who he is or why he's part of the book. He's a real detective. He's the typical, angry at the world, divorced, detective guy who's, getting too old for this shit. The book literally says that. It's great. So, but I have no idea what his purpose in the book was. He literally does nothing to advance the plot. So, again, it's a 3.5-star book, and that's the best that it can get with me, because there's so many loose ends that are never tied up, and when they are tied up, they're not earned at all. You have no idea how that happened, and it eats at my soul. So 3.5 out of 5 stars, because it is an entertaining book. I did enjoy reading the book. It was just the ending was a real letdown, and it is what it is. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe I'm missing something. By all means, check the book out. It's a damn good value. And read it and tell me what you think. Tell me if I missed something. Tell me if you're like, oh no, because the space-time continuum and the flux capacitor and all that equals this ending. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks for pointing that out. Or, no, that's not how any of that works. But that's going to do it for this book review, guys. 3.5 out of 5. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can, because I would love to have a debate. I would love to have a discussion about this book, because it's actually a very good book. It's just got a puttered out ending that's honestly a little disappointing. But as always, Thanks.